right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the true first full day of summer. It is June 21st. Select board meeting. As you can see, we're still meeting via Zoom. Welcome all those who are joining us. So let's see. Call to order at 7:02 p.m. All right. Let's see, so for announcements, meeting of the Berlin Select Board, generally recorded for transmission on both Berlin Cable, Access, YouTube, Zoom, virtual meeting platform, your voice image, notation alert messages, and/or phone number may be recorded. All right, so first up on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. So the first one is June 7th, 2021 open session.
I'll make the motion to approve, but I do have a couple of suggestions.
Okay.
Sure, I'll second so we can go to the discussion.
Okay. I would suggest that there's in parentheses, I think it's about the permission for having something on town land. And in the parentheses, it says, but not on private land. I'm going to suggest we delete that because right before it, it says the opposite, which it's kind of redundant.
Okay.
Chris, what number are you at? I'm sorry.
She's number 4.
Oh, I see it. I see it. I got it. It's number 4. Okay.
Can you
Okay,
see
so just
that?
remove them. Okay.
Just remove the parentheses, I would say. And then there also down at the bottom, I think, spirea.
Yeah,
She has it
It's-
spelled
it's-
a little wrong.
Yep.
I
It's
think it was
SPIRIA.
IRE.
REA.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
Awesome. All right, so we have a motion and a second, questions answered. Call it to a vote. Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
Awesome. All right, next up is the approval of a minutes. Oh, for the open session on the goals.
We're only 5 minutes in, Peg.
I know, and this is water. This is actually just water. For the goals and objectives work session.
I can make the motion to, well, no, I can make the motion, but I can't vote. I'm going to abstain.
Yeah. So I'll second the motion that she's going to abstain on to approve the minutes.
There any questions?
Can I just make a comment?
Of course you can.
I guess this kind of brought to light a question about what exactly are we working on for having in-person meetings, because I felt like it was difficult to see,
Yeah.
what was going on. And so I was just wondering whether there's something in process going on to make the process easier for people at home on Zoom, or what the process is going to be, or can we put this on an agenda, or?
I'm fine with it going on an agenda. I mean, the only reason that I thought it would be better to meet in person is that as we were doing the, sticky move dance, that it was a lot easier to see and kind of shuffle from one side of the board back to the other. But yeah, absolutely. We can put it on, not next week because Scott won't be there. And then July, we start to go into our every other week session. So maybe the first session in July, we can start to chat about what we want to do, like what would constitute an in-person versus let's stay as we are.
Well, or even the, how are we going to make it so that it can be seen easily by perhaps people that are going to watch it remotely? Cable, whether it's cable or, Zoom or what.
So I brought this up to Margaret because it had come up with another one of my groups, conservation, because they were so used to just on Zoom, somebody would just put up the diagram and they could all look. But now that they're meeting in person, they're trying to figure out how to get the documents around so that people can see it. So I don't know. And again, this is Margaret's suggestion, if we can use the TVs that we had for public voting to see if those could somehow be linked up to a laptop so that, if this happens again, then you could truly put a laptop on that screen, facing that screen, or if we do it in person, then cable comes in and they direct the camera, to that. So I don't know
Yeah.
if that's an option.
I just think, we do have a discussion to have.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay.
that's all.
All right, so I get a motion in a second, questions answered. So with that, we'll take a vote. Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
And
Yeah.
Keith abstains.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, correspondence. Mrs. Nardowitz.
Yes, there are two to note. The first is a request by resident Walter Bickford on the public input on an employee hire. He's been advised that the board will take it under advisement. So the board will accept it and not act on it. The next is anonymous correspondence that was received by the board last week that pertains to police chief salary comps. Again, I think that I would like to see the board advise that an anonymous correspondence, if it doesn't require an investigation, that it be received by the board, reviewed by the board, and that's it.
Acknowledged.
Acknowledged.
Definitely.
That's what I meant to say. Acknowledged. So the
You know,
board has received this.
I mean, I definitely understand why some people would want to not put their name to it, but at the same time too, for me personally, there's a bit of a disadvantage because there's no opportunity for conversation and you really just can't respond because what you may answer may not be what they wanted us to look at, which then starts more questions. So
Yeah.
I'd love for whoever sent it in or whoever's sent it in to, reach out to any of us, three of us plus Margaret and set up time, absolutely confidential, no worries there. But, that's kind of my feeling on anonymous letters.
I don't know if an anonymous letter really is a Berlin resident and not someone
Yeah.
who's trying to stir up something else that's not even related, not germane to us.
Yeah.
And then for personnel issues, I don't want to politicize any personnel hire. I believe there's a hiring committee in place.
Yep.
I'm not, I'm trusting that the people we have appointed to do hiring will do a good job.
All right. Thank you for that. All right, it is 7:10. It is time for Chief Clark.
Oh, it's general public comment, Peg.
Oh, sorry,
Okay.
missed one general public comment. So for the folks in the audience, if there are any, and at the same time, can we promote Chief Clark? All right, not seeing any.
It's Fire and EMS Chief Clark coming up.
It is truly Fire and EMS Chief Clark. There he is.
Hey,
Good evening, everybody. How you doing?
Good.
doing well. Happy Monday.
Happy
Same
Monday.
to you guys. Nice to see everybody. Margaret, thank you for that heads up Thursday on the governor's signature. Yeah,
They know you on a first name basis there now, Chief.
I don't know. I hate to say they didn't like it. What would happen if they didn't like you, right?
Now they know you.
All right,
no-
Chief, you got 20 minutes. We have an appointment at 7:30.
Okay, I can get through this really easy. I'll just start like usual, the monthly activity report. For May, we had 51 responses, 1.6 per day. There was 0 structure fires, which is always good. That's what we strive for. There were 17 fire-related responses. EMS responses I've been really picking up. There was 26 of those, 6 motor vehicle accidents, and 1 public service request, and then 1 other type call. So far this year, as of 4 June, we got 335 responses we got. So that's like a good number. And there's the other months here, so you can kind of like look at 18 to 21 there, the numbers, if you like looking at that kind of stuff. A fire prevention activity report was not submitted until today. It was reviewed, edited, then sent off to Mary for sharing with you guys. So it's like due to vacations. The fire marshal was gone and I was gone the end of last week. So it's like that's that I try not to have that happen, but it's like it was just kind of worked out that way. I apologize, and you should be able to have that for review. I was looking at that today. There's some really good general things that most people wouldn't be aware of that go on in the town that he keeps pretty good track of it. So I enjoy reading that every month. On some of the updates, the emergency management update, one of the two, like I said before, each community is required to have a emergency response plan. In Massachusetts, they call it the ESEMP. And ours is again under review, and we have to have one more quick meeting sometime soon. But the person that I work with is actually out on paternity leave. Him and his wife had twins, so it's like I'm not sure
Wow.
when he's back to get that done. So it's like he's a pretty busy guy. So it's like be interesting. It might take a little bit longer than they expected, but it is what it is. So and then the other thing that's really blasting along really well in a final plan comes to you and your board, the select board has final approval on it is the Regional Emergency Planning Committee. That's been meeting regularly. And it looks like at this time, the communities of Berlin, Bolton, Lancaster, Harvard, Devens, and Clinton are going to work together on that. So that'll be a really good, there's a lot of resources there. And to bring it all together, I was part of one where I came from, and they really work well when the people who are there want to be there and want to do a good job. And that's one of the requirements, and that's why they get people like me there for, to make sure we get that done and get that plan to you, give you time to review it, ask any questions, get any changes that you'll need in that. And they're looking for August of 2021 certification. So they're going with both barrels here. So it's like they're really aggressive with it, and it's that's kind of a heads up on that. One very interesting one is I got to get involved for the first time personally with the cannabis grow distribution and extraction facility that's planned off the end of Bigelow Road in Hudson, and the facility is completely into Berlin. The people who were doing it had asked, the Kane family had asked for some resources, water and sewer wise, and I believe that as of that meeting, they had not got it or didn't think they were going to get it from the town of Hudson. So we're going to come into Berlin and do what they need to do fire protection wise, which means cisterns and fire pumps and ability to refill the cistern. And so we haven't seen any plans on that, but we're ready. They said they wanted to be shovel ready for October. So it's like they're moving on that. It's a 2-story, 100,000 square foot building, and it's completely into Berlin. So I know the TA's been involved with that. She just has a good handle on what's going on there and that at the stage they're at. So it's like it'll be interesting to get involved with the design and fire alarm sprinkler systems and all that, those related components. So that's kind of a heads up on that. And it was good to work with the Hudson chief and deputy chief and the Kane family on that. There was a lot of good questions asked. They got a good plan to move it. And what Hudson has to do is improve or they have to do with the okay from Hudson is the road from the end of the cul-de-sac in front of Entwistle to the line. Now, then they work with the Berlin resources after that. So that's all in the works. And if you have any questions on that, I can try to answer them. Pretty cut and dried. Okay. I also on the EMS collections working group there, you can see what our May EMS billing, the ambulance has been busy. We're able to bill for $54,000, just over $54,000. That's a lot of money for Berlin in 1 month. So things have been really busy. The admin's been busy all the way through. The guys with all the paperwork they got to do to be able to make the admin submit the billing. It's working really smoothly now. We put some additional structure to it. So I'm very happy with that. And I just got those numbers for you there. That's what we collected is the credits that are in May. And And then we got year-to-date FY21. So it's like, there's some pretty good numbers there for a small community. And that's kind of like where we are. They bill, First Financial is involved with it. And the last bullet that I got there, so I'm not running over my 20 minutes, is, and I know that Scott requested, and I sent a copy of the spreadsheet that I got from the accountant, June, attach it to that. And there was some requested write-offs, which I will put through the chair to your board as of June 1st in the amount of total amount of $3,595. And there's a little bit of breakdown on that spreadsheet that's there. Not too much information because it's kind of like, I don't want to get into any of the HIPAA stuff with names and all that, but it's just past the statute. It's too old to collect on. So we're just trying to tidy up the books like we try to do a little bit every month. And it's kind of like boring for you guys to see the same stuff come forward, but just something that we got to work through and bring it up to date. And it's just going to take some time. I know June worked really hard on it. The TA works really hard on it. And so that's kind of like what we got for this month. And what's been going on at the fire department. And the guys are actively involved in training as we speak. We have a forcible entry prop, which is a tool that's anywhere from $5,000 to $9,000, depending on, and it's owned by the fire district. We've borrowed it, so we'll probably have it for 2 to 4 weeks and do forcible entry training, how to open steel doors, if you can do the steel doors, the house doors are like opening an eggshell. So it's like, it's good practice. I got to wield some irons on that to open that this morning for the first time in a long time, and felt good to do that kind of stuff again, and it made it put a smile on my face. So first thing through the door at 8 this morning, they had it set up. I said, oh, let's go, let's do it. So it's like, we popped it open and away you go. So it's like, it's a erodible skills if you don't keep it up. So I even fumbled with it one time. So it's like, but it comes back. It's kind of like riding a bike, but that's all. Unless you got questions for me, I know you're on a tight schedule tonight. That's kind of like all I got. Things are going really, really well here. We're moving forward every day. I'm really, really happy with the way the guys are stepped up to complete the paperwork on their end, and then Sharon's prepared the paperwork to go out to billing. We haven't had any questions from the billing company in a long time, and we were tasked by the TA to like bring some structure into that, and I feel like that those employees have done that, and I'm really proud of the way they've responded. So it's like they were kind of challenged a little, like it was a big deal to get it done, but I'm happy with it, and they're doing great things.
Chief,
So Margaret, are you looking for a motion in a second to write that amount off, the $35.95?
Yes, please. Yeah, and it was only 2 runs.
Yep.
So you have the run numbers right there.
Yep.
Yeah, one in April of 15 and one in May of 15. So
Yeah.
I'll move to write off the amount of $3,595 as requested by the chief and the technical, as is requested by the chief.
Thank you, Scott.
second.
Excellent. Motion in a second. Any other questions? All right, let's put it to a vote. Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keefe, aye.
There you go, chief. You are good to go.
Thank you, Select Board.
I
Anything
noticed for a
else?
while that our collection rate looks like at about 40 or 45%, which I think is decent for what we are doing, because I think I remember in the past it being significantly lower. And I was trying to quickly find my town report. I have too many things going on right here, so I can't find it to figure out how much we budgeted for fiscal year 21 for ambulance receipts, because I think it was less than the 161,000 we've already collected. And so I think we are doing ahead of targets, which I appreciate.
Yeah, we're moving forward. It's like, never look back, just go forward, get it better.
Yep.
So it's like, I'm happy with that. And yep. It's still a low percentage. You know what I mean? I look at it and I just can't answer the question why it's so low. I don't understand.
Yeah, I think for what we do, the type of stuff we bill for, I mean, it's not like we're a doctor's office that has a very clear, you get $5 for a blood pressure check and $15 for a tongue depressor. I mean, it's not quite that, but I work in the industry. And so I know our collection rate is at 90% or so. We do mental health stuff, and that's considered pretty decent. And so I think in ambulance services, I think if we hit 45 or 50%, I think we're doing pretty good.
Yep.
And you have, so.
Yep. Okay.
Chris, any questions?
No, I'm good. I thank you, Chief Clark. I'm so glad that you're able to go on the calls again now.
Oh,
Yes.
I was twitching, Chris.
I know.
I'm not a sitter, you know what I mean? And if we had had a fly here, I would have had to go home or sneak in like with one of those mustache thing on and do it, So it's like, yeah.
I'm
No,
glad it didn't take any longer than it did.
yeah, no, I put a smile on my face. I was sitting eating lunch in Freiburg, Maine when I got that message. So it was like,
Yay. I hope you had a good weekend too. A good
Absolutely.
I
week.
did. Thank you. It was very nice. Thank you.
So
Good.
Chief, one thing that came up when we were doing our goals and objectives, we put it out to the town and asked for the town input. And one of it to come back was first aid and CPR classes.
Yep.
And I know that that was something that you guys had kicked around, but unfortunately with COVID, it kind of went cool. So didn't know if somewhere you could put that in your, bag of agendas to see
Yep.
what,
No.
could be done.
We've already had discussion internally on that. With
Nice.
some people that are leading that. So it's like, and we're just about ready to pull the trigger and do that. 1 month for, we'll run a professional, like a nurse, firefighter, police officer refresher. And then we'll do a civilian one the next month. It's a little bit different, same
Mhm.
stuff, but just a little bit different format. And we'll be able to get those, and then we'll keep track of them. And next year, and hopefully next year, and if we, in the fire department report, or in your annual town report, we can keep track, and we train this many people on CPR and this many in first aid, and then we'll move forward. And there's a lot of different things you can do, this like programs, and we're just we're crawling here. We got to get up and walk faster. So it's like,
Well, I mean, it takes planning, everyone
Yeah.
has been kind of stuck for a year. So now that the doors are open, yeah, I have the utmost faith in you and the department to pull this off and, roll it out to the town.
you got it. Thank you.
And
Thanks.
let us know when you might be going to do it. We could help with some advertising.
Yep,
Okay,
absolutely.
thank you, Chris. A good idea. Thank you. Plus, I can put you guys all at the top of the list to take it.
right.
Well, yeah, that's certainly not a problem. And,
it's
with the
okay.
medical issues that I've had, feel free to use me as, the plastic dummy and, tie me up and, put all these other things on me and I'll be good to go. So I can stroll down the hall. So awesome. Thank you, Chief.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate you guys. Stay safe out there.
We try every day. Thank you very much. Good seeing
Awesome.
everybody. Take care. Enjoy the
Bye,
good
Chief.
weather.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay. All right. So I know that we have a hearing at 7:30 and it's 7:25. If we skip down to old business, Margaret, are there any end of year appropriation transfers, reserve fund transfers, contingency line item transfers?
Yes, you have one for action and the other is a reserve fund transfer. I'm just sharing with the board for your information. The end of year appropriation transfer is from snow and ice overtime wages. There were funds left to snow and ice expenses for the purchase of a plow to replace a plow that has been used previously. So that is the only end of year appropriation transfer. The other is a reserve fund transfer, the only one that has been submitted to the Finance Committee this year, and that's the amount of that is $53.66. The starting balance in the reserve fund was $95,000, so it still leaves very significant funds in the reserve fund, and we don't expect, knock on wood, we don't expect any more extraordinary unforeseen expenses in the last few days of FY21.
Wow, that's something to be proud of, huh?
Isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's
Isn't
pretty
it?
good.
I'm telling you, I have to reiterate that departments have been very, very responsible about keeping within their appropriations. They really have, and I'm proud of them. They get it. So
Well done.
That's good.
So do we need motions on these two, Margaret? Mary shaking her head. yes.
Just the one, just the end of year. The other one is for the board's information.
Okay,
I so move that the end of year transfer from overtime wages to snow and ice overtime wages to snow and type expenses, $2,000.
Second,
all right. Motion and a second. Looks like questions answered. Put it to a vote. Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
There we go. Unanimous. There you go,
Okay,
Margaret.
This is a virtual meeting. June will want the minutes attached to the original. I've got the originals here. Okay, thank you very much.
You are more than welcome. All right. I'm just trying to look to see if there's anything quick in the next 2 minutes.
How about the letter to the, Peg, what about the letter to the legislators for the
Okay. Yep.
the sunset?
Were there any questions? I know when we met a couple weeks ago, it was like the pretty letter with the pictures versus the the wording. That was the only way that I could keep them straight.
Yep.
I know
Any-
you were waiting on me to take a look at the second one. And I did. And I was thinking of the audience, which is you're sending it to the legislators, correct?
Mhm.
And I kind of like Peter's because it was to the point. And I mean, disagree with me if you disagree. But I thought that legislators maybe appreciate a letter that's to the point. But you know, that's just my opinion right now.
Okay, so which one, Chris, which one would you like to push through?
I think the plain one, the one
Okay.
from that Peter wrote. I mean, if it was for something else, if we were putting it in the item to advertise this, I think it'd be the other one would be more appropriate.
Okay,
That's just me.
I don't really have a preference. I thought they were both decent.
They were.
same. I mean, so, Chris, I like your input, so let's go with that one.
Does that take a motion?
Yes, please.
So I move we will send the letter that is shorter and without photos that was written by Peter to the legislators about request to extend the film tax credits.
Second,
All right, motion and a second. Lots of discussion. Appreciate that. Move it to a vote. Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
Perfect. There you go.
Perhaps we can send the other one to the item, or
Okay,
if there's another appropriate venue, to send it to,
absolutely.
or even send it to Powderhouse News or something.
All right, I can talk to Peter and see what he's thinking for that one.
Okay.
All right, it is 7:30 on the dot. So we have a continued public hearing with the board sitting as the earthwork board for the application for the earthwork permit, general bylaw article 12, section 4. The owner petitioner is Luis Santos, 12 Route 12 Auto Sales for the premise End of Old Central Street, map 21, parcel 42. What I'd like to do is have a motion made to continue the virtual hearing using the same Zoom link that we would have to move the meeting to August 23rd at 7:30 to give the applicant time to complete the necessary information.
Are you making that motion, Peg?
Sure, that was my motion.
Okay, I'll second it.
Is there any discussion?
I just want to note for the record that Mr. Santos is in attendance, so he is here. So.
All right, motion and second, any questions? All right, we'll move it to a vote. Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
All right, so move 3-0. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
So the hearing is continued to Monday, August 23rd at 7:30 p.m.
That is correct.
Okay.
I will make
Via
sure-
Zoom using the same link.
Yes, I will
Okay,
make note to put that on our template for that day.
Okay.
Appreciate your help with that. Okay, moving down. Margaret, you're up. Town Administrator
Okay.
report.
Okay, really whittling down all the COVID information here. So, as you know, the state of emergency was lifted on June 15th. We have moved from a mask mandate in the town offices to a mask advisory. Folks who are not fully vaccinated or who have not been vaccinated are advised to continue to wear masks according to the state's advisory. The building is now open from 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. So folks can come in during those hours, during the early regular business hours to conduct business transactions. And boards and committees do have the option to meet in person or virtually. So building will be open for in-person meetings. We have the highway superintendent facilities director job ad was posted in multiple locations. 9 resumes were received. Beginning tomorrow at late afternoon, the preliminary interview panel is going to start conducting interviews, at least of the top 6 candidates based on compiled feedback from the interview panelists. According to the act, and I'm not going to elaborate on this too much, but keeping in mind that candidates may be brought forward to the board, the Board of Selectmen and Town Administrator Act actually cites a process for appointment of candidates. If the board does not appoint any of the candidates brought forward, the administrator is responsible for continuing to present candidates until a candidate is appointed. And it's not as simple as that. There'd be additional discussion about the duties of the position and how we could attract candidates, but this is the process outlined in the act. The Division of Local Services Technical Assistance Bureau team has been in conducting individual interviews. They've had 2 rounds of individual interviews with department heads, members of the board. I know they interviewed the chair of the Capital Planning Committee, and they are going to be interviewing the chair of the Finance Committee. They do expect to do at least 1 more round of interviews in the next couple of weeks. And it's going to be those interviews that form the basis of their report and best practice recommendations. Next Monday, June 28th, is when we expect to have the Assabet Regional Housing Consortium Memorandum of Agreement before the board for signature. That's going to be a July 1st effective date that Berlin joins the consortium. Town Council has completed reviewing letter agreements with Beacon Integrated Solutions for energy technical assistance. One specifically for the meta grant work for solar investigation on municipal facilities, and another for a mix of small, very small projects, including solar pilot negotiations with 0 Point Energy. If they actually do come back and would prefer to negotiate a pilot, we're happy to still talk with them. Otherwise, they are being billed for personal property. Also for the AMP power net metering agreement that the town is a party to. And now the chair of the Energy Committee has, it would like to seek a little bit of assistance from Beth Greenblatt of Beacon with the municipal energy aggregation. So I'm going to talk with Beth about a very small amendment to that letter agreement. On July 7th, I expect to meet on site at the Linden Street parking area with the Con Chair John Aney, Sue Terrian, the property owner, and another department head regarding moving the fence and or adding additional entry or additional access to the parking area. This is going to be contingent on haying, the season, the weather, and things like that. So I'll keep the board posted. Other earth removal and import matters. The Highland Ridge developer has filed an earthwork permit application. The Earthwork Advisory Committee met today to discuss possible relief to a local hauler for certain materials. So I'm in contact with town council about any allowances or exceptions the bylaw may provide to allow any kind of continued activity there. And again, I'll keep you posted. I do expect to hear something very, very soon from town council because I was in touch with her today. I've preliminarily spoken with Ann Sullivan at MassDOT regarding the a transportation improvement program, the project application process. There are a lot of steps, a lot of hoops to jump through. And I am going to be meeting with her later this week to kind of really refine the beginning steps of the application process for a tip. This does not come with any obligation to the town. This is to present a project idea, essentially, to MassDOT for their consideration. What the town will have to discuss as we move forward, and we talked about this at the board's goals and objectives workshop, was beginning to discuss programmatic funding of design and engineering work for any larger infrastructure projects, whether it be sidewalks through Complete Streets or the TIP or Mass Works. The town is going to be responsible for all of or a portion of the design engineering work that goes with those construction projects. And then the last thing I will highlight tonight is that on July 12th, the Select Board and Board of Health will be meeting jointly with RCAP Solutions out of Leominster to discuss their private well testing programs. So they are going to be in Berlin and Bolton in the fall, conducting private well testing for a finite number of residents. And their presentation is going to be followed by the regional director of DEP to present information on DEP's PFAS well testing program, which is not going to be incorporated in RCAP Solutions. And finally, Village Center Strategic Plan, our core group is meeting with CMRPC on the 23rd to discuss next steps in incorporating a larger stakeholders group, community input, surveys, walkthroughs of the Village Center with Mass Development and the Office of Business Development, and other fun things. So I'll keep you posted on that. That's it.
Can I ask a question, Peg?
Oh, always.
I'm just looking for clarification on the public hearings and the COVID orders.
Mhm.
So the public hearings
Oh.
need to be in person or no?
No, I don't think they have to be in person. I need further clarification on this. But my initial read was that they had to be, and when I read it again, it looked as though that virtual is still going to be allowed at least through September of this year, and it could be longer. So I'll look more into it and get you some
Okay, I was
dates.
just wondering about, CBA and planning,
Yes.
and I looked at the order itself, which is
Yeah.
very difficult to decipher.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't see anything about that in the order, but you know
Yeah.
how you can miss things when it's in.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because one part of the order actually merged two sentences from two different paragraphs to make it read a certain way. And that needed to be followed by clarification it was by town council. So I'll get you a definitive answer on that. I think that virtual is still going to be allowed for a period of time.
Well, that's what I thought too, but
Mhm.
let me know.
Margaret, I had a question on the Linden Street. I think it's what, 218, that you're going with
parking lot,
John and
yes.
Sue.
Mhm.
Is a member of the police going to be there? Because I attended the conservation and they said that they just may need to cut some brush and add a mirror and
Yeah.
maybe not put in another entrance or exit. So definitely concerned. I know Chief had said that it's a
Mhm.
safety concern. So I would love for somebody from police to be in that meeting with
Mhm.
Sue and John.
Yeah, I was hesitant to commit, Chief, in my TA report, but yes, we'd likely be looking at that because of the public safety issue that's been noted.
Okay. All right, that's all I had for that one. Scott, you good?
I'm good.
Okay. Thank you, Margaret. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, so on to old business. We took care of the transfers. So now we are down to review select board goals and objectives. So it was a great meeting, lots of discussion. Appreciate everybody's input, appreciate the town's input as well. This is certainly not going to be anything that we're going to be able to resolve by tomorrow. The nice thing is that there were a bunch of stuff that is well on its way to being completed. So that was goodness. So now we need to figure out, old business, here you are. Now we need to figure out what we need to do with them and kind of the order in which we need to tackle them. So I will open it up for discussion. Here you are.
If I could
So
just give a
any-
quick, Peg,
Yeah,
can
go
I just
ahead.
give a quick overview of this?
Absolutely.
So on a spreadsheet you have, I don't know if Mary would be able to even share it, but there's a lot on it. There would be too much, I'm sure too much to read, but the first section is in process, which you noted is there are a whole bunch of things already in process. The next section is top tier select board goals and objectives. Those were the items where there was consensus between 2 or more board members. And so I wanted to put those, and a lot of these are repeated. They have been goals and objectives, and there are 11 of those. And I would very much appreciate the board, taking some time to go through those and kind of give me some guidance administratively of where you want me, to go with that. Some of them might be self-explanatory, but other things like timeline. If we could go over that kind of stuff. And then there were additional assignments, goal and objective assignments.
Yeah, which is nice because Mary, like if you scoot down to line 26, that's where we figured we could start to reach out to the various committees in town for their help, like the first one, explore creating a senior center. That's something that we can talk to Victoria about and COA and see how they can help. Working with recreation, there were quite a few that came in to have a stronger rec department or to fix the courts or, some extracurricular activities or a splash pad and a swimming pond. I'm not getting in that pond behind the tennis courts. I got in there years ago. Not sure if I've ever fully survived that, but again, that's something that rec can start to look at. Talking to Chief about the CPR and the first aid, and talking to Chief Galvin about some gun laws and things like that. So it's nice that this doesn't all fall to us to try and resolve that this truly, coin a phrase, this really is going to take a village to pull this off, and, expectations for timelines. As I said, there might be a few that are like, easy peasy, the redesign of the town offices. Well, that's almost all done. And the parking lot, which we'll talk about, and some other, the ambulance billing all underway. But, I don't know if we want to take time now to go through the top tier select board goals and objectives consensus by 2 or more, to come up with maybe like 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, like the 62 corridor, Margaret, I know that you said is probably going to take a while. A lot of folks, chimed in that they would love to see sidewalks, throughout the town, but
It'll take a lot of community involvement too, to even be building this project.
definitely. So, Scott, Chris, I throw it back to you on how you'd like to handle the top tier
Well,
items.
so it's top tier was only top tier when we had not talked and met to put together the things. That was on our own, separate from our conversations. 2 of us came up with it.
Right.
I think there are some things that are the others that when we get together go, oh, I didn't think of that, but I would put that at the top as well. And some that we might have even suggested that might not be as important as some things that other people have added in it. I think the column that is probably most interesting to me to put something into and make sure is the short-term fiscal year 22. What of that goal, like to improve Route 62 corridor, what do we think we can accomplish in this year? Because we're not going to get to a perfect Route 62. Like even if sidewalks were a thing, we're not going to by this time next year we won't have sidewalks in place, even if we all loved it. And sadly, I'm not one of those who loves it. So sidewalks take private property away from people. Sidewalks take money to put in, money to maintain. And we already have people, I believe, who are talking that taxes are too high in this town already. But there's things we could do, and I think we came up with that. Is that some funding mechanisms for design engineering? That's probably what will get done for for Route 62 in this year. The Bullard House, the using existing funds for curb appeal, but I thought also our fiscal year 22 was to prepare what is necessary for a town warrant for next May's town meeting to improve for some additional round of funding for stabilization of the building, which is that sill work and foundation work, which the study, it's not a fiscal study, structural study we did said is sort of the number one thing you should do to the building. The bylaw amendments, I mean, Margaret, do you think we really can, by a May town meeting, have something ready to vote on to combine those two messy bylaws into one?
I do. I actually think that there could be something prepared for a fall town meeting because, and the biggest reason is because our town council
Right.
has already prepared a baseline draft.
Nice.
And that's going to give us a head start on that.
Yep. And so, I mean, I think the next steps of that in some respects is town administrators bringing those drafts to us and the Earthworks Committee and and other folks who might want to have input on it and start gathering input to start shopping it around to see if we think it's ready for a town meeting or need other pieces, whatever our next coffee talk is. Maplewood. I'll let someone else figure out what we think our fiscal year 21 goal is for that.
I had that on my list, and first of all, I want to apologize for not being there. I'm still working on a sinus infection of some kind.
Yeah. We appreciate you not actually exposing us to like potentially get sick as well. So
exactly.
We missed you, but we didn't miss you.
We did miss you. Right.
That's right.
So my idea for that was to, when Margaret has done enough research as far as the agreement, talking to DEP and the LSP, have her give us a report to see if we can do anything to reduce the town's exposure. That was all I was looking for in this year.
Or town exposure and I'm playing with wording in my head, but help the Maplewood Farm bring the project to a conclusion.
Right. However you'd like to word it. That was just my thoughts, because I know that that's about all we can do, really.
Yep.
Mary, just if you just drag that cell right above it, so Maplewood is just above this one. Yeah.
It's in the
Yeah, there it is. Okay.
Maplewood had a little short row.
And I mean, I want to thank you guys. You did a great job, I thought.
It was Scott and Margaret who were doing the sticky. I sat. Well, tried not to trip Margaret. That's right. I was doing the Vanna. So it was really Scott and Margaret who were doing the sticky note movement, but I got a lot out of it. There was a lot of great discussion, and as I said, very pleased with the input from all of us, thinking individually, but kind of like thinking together. And then of course from the town, they had their own color stickies. So,
I'm hoping under facilities management, we, if I paraphrase my grandmother, either finish your work in the bathroom or get out. Um, uh,
my mother had something
we-
like that too, but I can't
Yes.
say it. Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
I'm wondering if, like, for fiscal year 22, we should really like make a decision if we're going to keep highway and facilities sort of together or split them apart or do other things. Now, I think we need a little bit more research. I think the biggest thing we need to figure out is who's our next highway superintendent, because their skill set might help decide what direction we want to go on this.
Exactly.
And I think after we hire that person, we bring all the key people together, including that person, and figure out what we think might be the best way to support the physical facilities we have in town, whether that's a separate facilities manager that reports directly to the town administrator, or whether that's within the highway department. I don't think, I mean, I know we sweat over this a bit, but I don't think there's necessarily a wrong answer. They're both right for different reasons. And because if you put a lot of things into the highway department, you can make it big enough where there's some places for advancement. We can keep people here longer. But it does require, more to be done by the head that can burn them out. And so, but I think we just, and I think that's us. Again, Margaret starts it with meeting with the key folks, and then we chime in with some of the pieces on that as well. And I think we're all open to it.
And
At least I
Scott, to
think
add
we're
to
all.
your, yeah, to
Yep.
add to your point too, under town buildings, right below facilities
Yep.
management, if we are able to have an assessment for condition conducted, that's going to
Yep.
give the highway superintendent and staff kind of
Yep.
an advantage, knowing what the issues are. So I am really, I'm going to try to look
Yep.
for a best practice grant for that, or come up with something that we could have that
Mhm.
done.
And it's still on my desk, YouTube specialized. I've put on me a year plus ago. Richard Smith of the Capital Planning Committee actually did, who is an architect, did a tour of the buildings. I have reached out to him a couple of times to schedule meetings. He has always been very good at getting back in touch with me, and then I drop the ball and don't finish it. And so I will try to finish that and get his pieces, because I think we started a chunk of that stuff, and I think we're ready to add some more details to it. But a best practices grant is also a great way to go, because even his walk around will be limited on sort of what we do next too.
I'd like to see his report as a starting point, because that's something
Yep.
that we could potentially put in an application.
Yep. The overall financial policies, I think I at both the meeting before and now, I think the short-term goals of fiscal year 22 are going to implement some of the recommendations from the DLS financial review that was just completed. And
Yes.
based on what those are, we'll have to decide who is responsible for them.
Yeah. Getting those in place is going to be really
Right.
valuable when it comes time to refunding our debt, or
Mhm.
the credit agencies, not only our auditors, but the credit rating agencies are going to be looking at whether we have these policies in place. So
And if it follows like other outside studies I have done in other environments, let's say they had 12 recommendations, there's going to be 4 of them that we're going to go, oh my goodness, yes, we need to do that as soon as possible. And 2 more that we're going to go, oh, we didn't think of that. That's kind of new. But there's going to be a couple we're going to look at going, I don't think the cost benefit for Berlin is really there. Yes, I get there's a risk. I guess that's not the greatest. And so I think it'll be interesting once we get it out, sort of how many of them we want to do now versus how many we go and go, yeah, that's just not. Think of the fiscal audit at my current office. Every now and then they talk about some segregations of duty, and our department's not big enough to segment it all. We'd have to add 3 or 4 more staff, and the benefits versus the risk is not there.
DLS will give us some really good
Yep.
recommendations.
I think so too. Capital Planning Committee, I think, is well on their way of doing that. I maybe us as select board is we stay out of the way and we let them finish their work. But a reminder is good.
Yeah. By the way, for anybody who's listening or watching, Capital Planning Committee has at least 1 vacancy, I think, at this moment. So now's a good time to get your feet wet and see what the Capital Planning Committee does.
Nice plug,
excited.
Margaret.
Good, because I think once
My
we get
sales
below
pitch.
this yellow line, we'll have a whole bunch of more sales pitches to do.
It was my understanding also that the DLS financial management review was probably going to suggest this 5-year plan anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Actually, I think CPC has 2 vacancies, not 1, 2.
I'm gonna sort of the tax taking process, especially on those 2 properties. What is a measurable thing we could look at in fiscal year 22 that shows that's moving along?
Mhm.
To make a decision about them, probably.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that one of them will be resolved in the not too distant future. The other, I think I had noted previously, maybe look into an MVP grant to study,
The
to
dam.
look at the dam more closely and what kind of obligations the town would be under once, if it was to acquire that property.
And then in the next section, although several of these came from residents,
Mhm.
and might have only come from one of us as select board, I don't think there was anything here that the 3 of us couldn't get behind and support. I thought the for the opportunities for seniors is encouragement the Council on Aging to come up with a more robust budget. In other words, what would they want in a reasonable way to expand their programming offers to seniors in town?
Well, I as I was looking at this, in the bylaw for recreation, it does cover, adults through children or children through adults. And I think that part of recreation has been pretty limited. And so why not have recreation assist the Council on Aging, perhaps, with some programs that they could get behind?
I know that, I know that rec is gonna be meeting, I think they're meeting this week, to talk about their goals and objectives as well. So, I mean, I did share the next box with Julie.
And
And
just, go over their charge.
Yeah.
It's all in their charge,
yep,
I don't think the 2 comments are mutually exclusive at all. I think they work quite well,
right.
both expanding the budget and working with other committees.
yep,
Apparently it's 8:00.
it is 8:00.
I was trying to figure out where the bells were coming from because my ears are still half plugged up.
Chris,
And
there's no bells, Chris. No bells.
Well, I can't determine where they're coming from.
It is amazing. At the home, I never hear them except when I'm aware of them on Zoom calls. Like, oh, everyone's hearing my clock in the background. I think recreation is a little bit the same thing about don't sort of be penny wise and pound foolish.
Yeah.
That I think as a town, we have now a $15 million budget. And that sort of cultural, which covers the Council on Aging and rec and library, is still like 2 or 1% of the budget. And we as select board might, when we're looking at the fiscal policies, Margaret, and looking at the budgeting, is maybe we have a goal of how much we think of the total budget we think we should be spending on that cultural, recreational sort of part of the town. Because I think as a whole, those numbers, and sadly I don't have I don't have the book in front of me, but those numbers have not gone up much in 20 years. And the town budget has more than doubled in 20 years. And so, I mean, I think all 3 of us are fairly fiscally concerned. We don't like spending more. We don't need to. We're regularly looking for things to cut. But this is one of those areas I think that we might have been stingier on than we needed to in hindsight. And so at least look at it, because they can propose it and then we can go, look, as a town, they tried, and we'll have to decide if we're going to really put our money where our mouths are. But at least if with a proposal in front of us, we have that opportunity.
That's right. So the proposal is the first thing. The ideas, right? The ideas will come from the Council on Aging and Recreation, and then funding can follow that. So could follow that.
Yep. CPR and first aid, we just sort of, you've already hit on Peg. this administrative one, especially the first one, we expect this to be part of the DLS request, but to move payroll and bill warrants to alternating weeks.
Mhm.
Is there any minuses to that? Because we've never had a discussion on it. Are there any minuses?
The accountant might have a different opinion than me. I would say that the transition might be a little rough. We have collective bargaining units. We'd have to give advance notice to employees. We'd want to be sure that we time it so that changing to alternating weeks for payroll and bills is going to be manageable. I mean, usually you would start that. I mean, I would think that you would start that at the beginning of a fiscal year or the beginning of a calendar year. Probably better at the beginning of a fiscal year, but if we were to at least prepare for that, for the start of FY23, July 1, 2022, and add in capturing accruals and usage on payroll, which is something that's long overdue here. Maybe we could combine the two and have a kind of have a bigger
Do you
target.
think we could have, next time June comes for a visit to our meeting, can she perhaps talk about this?
Sure.
How she, would
You hear
affect
that?
her?
June's
Well,
here.
Yeah, June's in the
Hi,
audience.
June.
June.
I mean,
It's-
Margaret, I would start even with I would get ready for June's next presentation, and I would start soliciting from department heads and employees or anyone else who has opinions to start collecting what people think some of the pros and cons are, so that potentially by fall, let's say September, October, we have sort of a plan
Mhm.
that we might be able to pull a trigger on January 1. But that our backup plan is to trigger it, July 1, 2022.
Margaret, when's your next department head meeting?
Tomorrow,
Oh,
as it turns out.
all right. How about the one after that?
Well, I can actually give them an intro on this tomorrow. That's totally
Yep.
fine. I can brief them on this, and just have them start putting on their
Thinking
thinking
caps?
caps and
Yep.
give me feedback and
Well, it's always been talked about like it's a done deal, like we're gonna do it. But I just thought maybe we should have discussion.
Yep.
Mhm.
As of the other lists in that, I mean, I don't think we're going to get. I mean, either you get to. I think some of them are just sort of more exploratory, and that if we cross off one or two things from that administrative list in fiscal year 21 or by the beginning of fiscal year 22 or the beginning of fiscal year 23, I think that would be great. I think they might be in. They might randomly be in an order of doable to less doable.
Mhm.
Um, my cross that I still think will take 5 or 10 years to pull off is move health insurance to a percentage of pay as opposed to flat dollar amount, so the burden falls less on lower paid employees and more on more highly paid compensated employees. But that's not even if we all, again, it's one of those, even if we all totally agreed with it, that's a year plus to get implemented because there's a lot of hoops to jump through.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
would
isn't
be.
that, so I have the feeling that that might be something that town council's gonna say, nope, you can't do it.
Yeah, possibly. And we could actually run this by Jill Gallant Shaw first too, to
Yeah.
get her
There may
feedback
be
on it.
reasons why it can't be done. I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah, we can certainly we could explore it. Take a
Mhm.
Yeah.
look.
Um,
And
the-
I've heard about the Worcester Retirement Services and, why is it so expensive and, you
Yeah.
know, that kind of
And-
thing. I'd be
and
curious
that's
to find that out.
right, and that's a learning one. And so a learning one, we just pick a meeting to put it on our agenda to learn more about it. Dennis brings us the stuff he learns. We could potentially invite someone from Worcester Retirement to talk about because both how we ever get out of the hole we or they are in, and and be clear of the things we do that can limit our liabilities going forward, and things we can do that make the problem worse.
You think that Sue Gallant Shaw would be able to help us with that question?
As far as retirement, I'm not sure. She
What's
is,
the retirement?
yeah, she is health benefits. However, I haven't yet had an opportunity to go to a Worcester retirement system meeting. They hold monthly meetings. Typically, it's the treasurer
Right.
collector that goes. I don't think Dennis has been inclined to go, and I do think that we need to be represented. So I'll talk with Dennis. Maybe he and I could even alternate. But
Yeah.
we've got to be represented there.
Mhm.
And so maybe one of the fiscal year 22 goals is also just attending several of their meetings.
Right.
I don't think we're
Regularly
ready to,
attending.
yeah.
Mm.
The gun laws request that came in from a resident, several of their requests are things that are sort of either not something the town of Berlin actually has control over. And some were things that I thought were already in place. In other words, they asked to restrict shooting on or hunting on Sundays, and that's already a law in Massachusetts. You can't hunt on Sundays. Um, but I at least wanted to, it made me stimulated to just ask the chief, and if he could at his next meeting, just how many private ranges do we have? Because private ranges don't count as hunting. You still officially can shoot, but there's nothing in our bylaws about guns at the moment.
Mm.
I think, wasn't the question more along the lines of listening to the gunfire and not necessarily at ranges?
It was also asking us to update our town bylaws on guns, and we have no bylaws on guns. All the gun
Okay.
regulations of this town are federal and state. And
This
I
is
don't
a
think there's
per-
anything in our,
This
right.
is a perfect assignment for police department, have
Yep.
PD weigh in on
Yep.
this.
Okay. The only other thing that I wanted to add was on the section above,
Yep.
under town buildings. I thought maybe the old fire station roof might
Mm.
go better under the Bullard House. So that, I mean, when Margaret and I had a chat with Barry, he had talked about having one place to put all the things, especially if they're going to do any kind of renovation to the Bullard House. And maybe that one place could be the old fire station, but the roof would need repaired.
Mm.
Instead of having everything spread out in all different
Yep.
places.
I agree. I think under short term and either under town buildings or related to the Bullard House is again having a warrant ready for a fall town meeting, special town meeting
Mhm.
to fix the roof of the old firehouse.
Repair it, yeah.
Yep.
Um,
Well, I think that would come on the assessment of all the buildings, in town to see what stays,
it
what
could be.
goes, who's in disrepair.
But that could take a while, and I think since we want that building fixed now for storage, I don't know who gets tasked with figuring out what the cost would be or how much detail we need to put together for a warrant article. I mean, I know we don't have a date planned or even a need at the moment for a fall special town meeting, but as we start looking at the things we're asking warrant articles on, a fall meeting, especially if we get a couple of these ready, could make a spring and the May meeting more doable in one day.
And the CPA committee might actually be ready to bring forth small project recommendations as early as
Yep.
this fall. So
I think we're going to end up having to have a fall town
Fall.
meeting because we have several things on the River Bridge agreement if we'd like to change the
Yeah.
dates.
Yep.
They
Yep.
will expire.
yes, yeah.
So even if it's just a short, very small town meeting, we do have,
Yeah.
we may have, I should say,
Mhm.
some things that we want to change in that agreement. So,
Yep.
can I just make a suggestion?
Always.
So looking at this, or did you want to continue with the rest of this first?
Yeah, I think I think we're done with it because the civic and community city gave it, I think, as a specific agenda item in one of our meetings because that is big and complicated. And I am still, I did a tiny bit of research on it in the last week or so, but not enough that I feel I can say much on it. because we grouped a lot of things into that. That includes, how do we get more people into running for public office, and how do we get communications out to people on a regular basis, and how do we fill all these positions, and how do we make volunteering more fun and exciting, and bring in people who are new people to town and not feel you have to live here for 30 or 40 years before you can volunteer.
Well,
I'm creating a Venn diagram in my head over the civic engagement
Yeah, I
thing.
know. Yep.
So the only suggestion I would have on that is, in order to educate people on what the different boards and committees do and what the commitment is and all that, it might be a good idea to have one meeting with perhaps the people from those committees to come and talk about what they do, what the commitment is, and combine it with the volunteer recognition. Have a cookout, do something like
Aw.
that.
What a great coffee talk kind of idea.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, wow.
yeah. I mean, these people deserve some recognition, the ones that are on the committees, plus people may come. And if you have it all in one meeting, then they're not searching for, well, which night were they going to talk about this committee and which night were they going to talk about that committee? It might be better to have it, a couple of hours where everybody gives a brief overview of their board and committee, and then people might get interested enough to volunteer or to run for whatever position it is.
Mhm.
But I
That's
know
an excellent idea.
Bolton does something like that. I think one time the town administrator up there told me that he does this annual barbecue for, and I don't know if it's for boards and committees or if it was for employees or what, but I thought, well, why not do something like that?
That's a great idea.
So that was just my 2 cents.
No, that's good. That's great. That's the type of thing I think we need in the civic engagement. And yours is actually quite a concrete thing we could put into fiscal year 21. I mean, the year hasn't started yet, and so we can't say we don't have enough time to plan something and pull
Mhm.
something off. And I'm sure we could work somewhere. It's not going to be super expensive, but we could find the funding for it in the budget.
Yeah, we could do it just like a Christmas party where everybody brings something, but it needs to be something where they're appreciated. So
Yes.
might be
Yes.
better off, well, I'll donate the hamburgers and buns and
Yep.
something like that. I don't know. So that was all the notes that I had, but I think that you guys did the hard work. And I think my opinion is that the top tier select board goals should perhaps be the goals we have for Margaret, and maybe we can narrow it down as far as timeline. And then the others, hopefully maybe we can talk more about the goals and objectives assignments,
Mhm.
unless you want to talk about it now.
No, so maybe what we do is we each take a stab, because I'd really be curious, if you look at the goals and objectives section, by two of us or more, if we come back with timelines, that we've come up with and what needs to be done, I'd be extremely curious how close we'll all be working individually, but kind of thinking as one.
Well, but Margaret might
Yeah.
actually have a good idea of how long it might take.
Yeah. Well, I mean, then those
Well-
we can defer, like the Maplewood agreement. That's probably more in Margaret's court, than it is in our court. The Bullet House, I mean, we've talked about it multiple times. I think we
Right.
kind of sort of know what needs to be done, work with historical. So there might be some that we can take a stab at, because Margaret had her own stickies, towards the
Yep.
end of the board that I know that she wanted to work on.
Right. There was some administrative and process stuff that are really about the functioning of town offices that I thought were great. And so I think there's a big overlap between select board
Mhm.
goals and town administrator goals. But I think there's some things that she is working on
Yep.
that we might be better at, just still an advisory, and again, staying out of the way of getting good work done.
Well,
And that we should take some of these that are our goals, so that that some of the things that we can do, the thing, especially when it started working with outside boards and committees,
Right.
we could work with some of them to help them think big enough or grand enough or have the resources to get things done.
well, we do have to remember that we're a policy board. So there may be
Yep.
some things we can do, but something, like you said, we need to stay out of it.
Yep. We could kind of gently guide or bring it up. Again, it's one of those, getting back to what Scott said, that there's going to be things that we may say to a board during our liaison that they might be like, oh, I never thought of that before, or that just might need like a little gentle nudge, the earthworks bylaw, give the earthworks committee just a little push, to work on that and stuff. All right, so what do we think for next steps for these? Come back with timelines?
well,
Margaret, do you want to flag the ones that are definitely in your court that we can stay clear?
Well,
You don't have to do it now. I'm not put you on the spot now.
I have a feeling, I'm either going to be taking a lead on some of these or facilitating the board's work on some of these, leading to those policy actions that the board's going to take. So I can try to define my role in it a little better, in each of these things, bring for example, bylaw amendments, bring forward drafts to the board for consideration, or work with the Earthwork Advisory Committee on their recommendations to the board. Overall financial management policies, work with the administrative finance team to bring comprehensive recommendations to the board and FinCom. So
I mean, let's face it. She's going to have something to do with all of these.
Finger on the pulse.
These are the ones that I would vote to have her have goals for next year. Now, whether or not it's going to take longer than 1 year, that needs to be determined.
Which is why I really liked the short-term fiscal year 22, because some of these, like again, the 62 quarter, we're not going to get that fixed in 1 year, but to show there's regular progress and regular steps forward, what of that task needs to get done in sort of fiscal year 21 or 22, so that in fiscal year 23 we can take step 2.
And there's policy that's got to be developed with the funding, this recurring funding for the design. So, okay.
For warrant articles or spending, so I go back to the foundation and still work for the Bullard House. Because we have that structural study that already has a ballpark number in it, is that enough? Like if warrants closed in 3 days, would we have enough information to just write that up? Do we need anything more?
We'd probably I think that we'd ask Squaw Hollow for a little more detail on the work involved in shoring up the sill. What else is going to be required? What are the contingencies in a project like that? What if you find that all the sill wood is rotten and it all has to be replaced, given the price of lumber right now? That's certainly going to affect the cost. So I think that we'd ask for a little more detail from Squaw Hollow on what work is, the details of the work itself.
Right. Okay.
No, this is a definite great start. Lots of hard work, and you know what? It keeps us honest. If these are the things that we say that we're going to do, well, these are the things that we got to do. All right. Awesome. Well, Margaret, you know where we are. Again, you know my theory. It's not a dump and run. So
I see this as a team. We all have our parts.
Yep. Agreed. All right. So back to the agenda. We are down to review updates to film permit process and fee schedule for possible updates. So I think there's something in the drive on that.
This adds the language that Scott commented on at a recent meeting, differentiating the activities that would require a film permit versus those that wouldn't.
Yeah, I like the language. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that someone wasn't just doing a TikTok video in their backyard and suddenly they need to do a permit for us.
Nice. Chris, did you have
I
any
also wanted to point out
comments?
that the select board is not old enough to point out that the select board is not old enough to be able to say we're young enough so we can say the word TikTok video and know what we're talking about.
This is true. This is true.
Yeah, and if you have a news crew in here doing something, they're certainly not going to be
Right.
subject to the application. So there, good. And
No,
then Mary made
I'm good, Peg.
a lot of other edits to reflect select board and
Mhm.
other cleanup.
What was that, Chris? I'm sorry.
No, I said I'm good, Peg.
Okay, all right, so where'd my agenda go? All right, there you are. So we good to make a motion and a vote on these items?
Sure. I move the film permit application as presented.
Second.
There you go. All
Sorry,
right.
I forgot that was my job.
Ah, well, I can see you shaking your head and I'm thinking, oh God, she's hearing those non-bells again. All right. So
I'm just trying to get my ears open.
oh, we are a hot mess, but we're a good hot mess. All right. So we have a motion and a second. We had some discussion, so we'll put it up to a vote. Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Chief, aye.
There you go, Margaret. All set.
You've got an
All right.
amended policy. Good.
So our next old business is for Connect Wellness, otherwise known as Candle, Massachusetts, to review the documentation from the applicant on communications with Hudson, review and approve draft community outreach public notice. Okay, I'll stop there. All right.
Okay, so two action items for the board tonight. So at a recent board meeting, actually, it was not that recent. It was the meeting at which the board approved the host community agreement subject to information from Hudson and Connect Wellness holding the community outreach meeting. We had a follow-up meeting with Kathy Adams, the owner of the land, Gabe Single, the principal of Connect Wellness, now Candle Mass LLC. And while Hudson zoning is industrial and doesn't specifically allow the recreational marijuana use, Kathy wanted to show us, and we asked her to provide information or evidence that they have been in communication with Hudson. I wanted to, Chris was at the meeting too, we wanted to bring it to the board for the board's consideration as to whether or not this will suffice, with respect to the board's request of the principal. So you can see from back to 2019 and into 2020, and even currently, they have had interactions with the town of Hudson. As Kathy explained it, Hudson is well aware of this particular project based on all the communications they've had. Hudson Light and Power is going to be providing power to the site. Hudson Water will not supply water. They are going to be using wells at the site. Hudson Planning Board endorsed an A&R plan for access to the site. Kathy has met on site with both the Hudson and Berlin fire chiefs jointly to talk about public safety access to the site. So if the board is looking for a recommendation from me, I would say that this is the onus of the applicant to assure that they're going to be able to move through our special permit process here in Berlin without obstacles or without having the application stopped. I do think that they've done their due diligence and they clearly understand that this is their burden to show that they can defend the project on the Berlin side of the town boundary. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that the regulations that were adopted by the board previously on virtual community outreach meetings, I sent these to Connect Wellness. I'm gonna have a hard time changing the name, referring to them as something different, but They have prepared a public notice based on the regulations that the Berlin board adopted when C3 was going through this at the start of COVID. I reviewed their draft public notice twice, and I do believe that it meets all the criteria. So they're looking to seek the board's approval of the public notice in the form it's in, and brush it up and insert the Zoom links and all of that, and get this posted as soon as possible so that they can hold a community outreach meeting. So those are the 2 action items for the board tonight.
So that would be July 15th, Margaret.
Yeah, I recommended July 15th on that. So
Did they
they
come-
have to get it in the paper very soon.
Did they come up with a, what's the word I'm looking for? Facilitator?
Well, I've talked to them about a facilitator, and I can do the basic moderating things that I did at the last one, but I have asked them to provide someone who, on their end, who would promote people and put people back in the audience and things like that.
So Scott, Chris, any questions, concerns?
No, I was privy to the meeting, so
That's true. Yep.
I'm good. I think they're committed.
Okay.
Yeah,
Project.
and it sounds like they are doing outreach to Hudson in a way that feels good, and I'm ready to support both of the recommendations.
Okay, can I get a motion?
I move both of those recommendations.
There you go. We like that, short and sweet.
Second,
All right.
Mary's going to make that motion sound much prettier.
All right, motion and a second. We chatted, put it to a vote. Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keefe, aye.
Okay,
Go.
I will notify them.
All right. So we need a vote to accept further documentation as needed by Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission on the pending license transfer application to Sean Kashav for the wine cellar.
And
So the
everything's in order.
Approved this, and ABCC required additional information. So the board just simply needs to accept the further documentation that has been submitted and to reaffirm your prior vote in support of the license application transfer, or the license transfer application.
So
I
moved.
I
Look at
second.
that. Chris wanted to get in there.
Good.
All right. So we get a motion and a second and discussion, put it to a vote. Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keefe, aye.
Boom. There you go.
There are those bells again.
Chris, there's no
That's
bells.
it. It's every 15 minutes. They get longer as you go through the hour. You missed the 8:15 ones.
I guess
Oh.
so.
See, they're already blending into your background too. See, it's also I'm missing my little softy thing on the end of my microphone, so it used to mute more of the background noises.
See, and Chris, you missed the train. The train's already gone by, so it should come back. You should hear the train from your house.
Yeah, when I'm outside, I do.
As you
Okay.
can say, if I'm outside, I can hear from my house.
All right, so on to new business. Vote to authorize the chair to sign contract with Vadar.
So moved.
Oh,
Second,
Boom chakalaka, put it to a vote. Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keefe, aye.
There you go.
okay, Peg, if you could stop in at your convenience to sign this, that would be wonderful. You're gonna have to sign the amendment and the agreement itself.
Okay, could you leave them on, let's see. If PT tomorrow, might be able to swing in a little bit before 9, so Margaret, either your office, or if you want to pop them on the select board table.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, will do.
All right, next up is to approve the common victular license. Chris, I always said that wrong. You always like help correct that for me.
No, you did good. That was.
Did I
very good.
do okay on that one? All right.
You should hear Judy Booman say it.
Oh, for the Berlin General Store, co-owner managers Ed Munter and Melissa Barlow.
I recommend, this is a transfer of the business. The business has been sold, and I recommend that the select board approve the common vic license, contingent on receipt of any final documentation and feedback from local reviewers.
So
Okay,
moved.
Scott. Yay, second.
Yay. All right. Motion and a second. We'll get a vote. Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
There you go, Margaret.
All right. Oh, we're just whipping. through
Oh,
these.
I hear,
Yeah. Don't
what's his
you-
name?
Cujo.
Cujo. There you go.
Rudy.
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 I like Cujo better.
We knew it
All
was
right.
somebody from a movie.
The next one up is designate enforcing authorities under non-criminal disposition for earth removal and import bylaw.
Mhm. I promise I won't read through this whole thing, but non-criminal disposition bylaw allows the select board to designate local enforcing authorities that could impose civil penalties for violations of bylaws. In this particular case, I recommend that the building commissioner and one earthwork advisory committee member as designated by that committee be designated the non-criminal bylaw enforcing persons for Article 12, Section 7, investigation of violations, suspension or revocation of permit.
So
So
moved.
we'll-
Second.
So Margaret, we'll have to get back to earthworks, right? Because you and I left before, I think that was on their agenda.
Yes, I will let them know. I will ask them to notify the board of their designee.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, motion and a first. Motion and a second, put it to a vote. Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
There you go. Excellent. All right, getting down to the bottom. So Mrs. Nardowitz, 23 Linden Street parking lot contract award recommendation.
Yep, I've completed the municipal reference checks for the low bidder, and I do recommend that the contract be awarded to Nocella Landscaping and Paving, subject to contract negotiations and acceptance of project timelines.
Motion,
So moved.
Second.
all right, put it to a vote. Oh, yeah, put it to a vote. I'm like, oh, there goes my cat. See, it's getting late in the night. Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
Okay, that contract will be coming back to the board in the near future for execution.
Awesome. And last up under new business is the CMRPC MOU for FY. I like that, MOU, MOU.
Memorandum of understanding.
There you go. For FY22 Green Communities Assistance.
Yep, this is something that I'm going to bring to the Energy Committee and let them know that we're going to receive their assistance again. They are going to assist Berlin with our the competitive grant application process. I know that the Energy Committee was interested in submitting something in October, so CMRPC will assist with that, and they will also assist again with the Green Communities Annual Report preparation. And this is no cost to the town. This is funding that has come from the state, DOER, to CMRPC. So great.
It answered my
assistance.
question.
Yes, free money. We like that.
Yeah,
All right, moving into boards and
and
questions.
authorize the board, and I'm sorry,
Yes.
vote to authorize the chair to sign that one.
Okay. Motion,
Oh,
So moved. Chair can sign.
Second.
all right, put it to a vote. Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
All righty. There you go, Margaret.
Okay, I'll put that on the table too.
Thank you, I appreciate that. All right, next up, board questions and comments liaison updates. I'll go last.
I'm
I
good.
don't really have anything. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good too.
All right, a lot of the stuff we already went over. Rec is meeting this week, their goals and objectives. Margaret and I sat in on the Earthworks committee meeting tonight to discuss the over 55 up on Highland. Who else do I have? Conservation. Margaret, you're helping to take care of that for Linden Street. And energy, we've got a meeting coming up. Margaret, did you see my email earlier today? Even though you had sent out the Zoom link for the meeting on, I forget what day already, it's not or was not posted on my town government as of this afternoon.
Okay, it's good that you sent that email because I don't have access to that. But Eloise, I
That's what
think,
I'm
has
hoping.
posted that before, so hopefully
Okay.
He'll take care of that.
All right. So with that, we will move into executive session. The board will enter executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A. Reason number 7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant in aid requirements. Look at the executive session minutes. And reason number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares. Discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, police union, local 264, MCOP, firefighter union, local 5288 IAFF. And we will come back to public meeting to adjourn.
Only to adjourn.
Only to
Only
adjourn.
to adjourn. All right, going to do a vote. Stone, aye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.